It's time to talk about one of Chloe's best classes, if not her best class, and that is Griffin Knight. So Griffin Knight is the default class she's put on, and a lot of people probably run her wrong on it, just because it's actually a magical class that can pop off on Levin Sword more so than a physical class, but it can also pop off on physical. So let's go over what it does to Chloe as a unit. So here, let me move this up here. All right, so this is... down here are her growth rates, right? And then here's her growth rates with the class modifiers added in. So she has just 35% strength, but 50% magic growth, 55% dex, 75% speed, 50% res, so she becomes like a res tank, and then 40% luck. Now the speed, the takeaway really is the speed and the magic. The dex is a nice bonus, but those are the two things that matter the most, because when you're on Levin Sword, that's mostly what you're going to be looking at so that you can double and deal high damage. Now, in terms of weapons, I would say Levin Sword is the absolute best weapon, so you'd want Sword Griffin Knight, which can easily be unlocked by getting Sword Mastery from Marth or anyone else who offers Sword early. So you could get her on this. Now, she defaults to being put on Lance Griffin, which still can be good. You can go like a physical route, and I'll go over builds for both. But generally, swords are the best thing here. And in terms of weapons, if you're on sword, you could also alternatively run Folkvanger to deal some physical damage. Like, let's say you want to smack a high-res target and she doesn't have, sword power online, or you just want like an alternative thing to Levin Sword to ignore res and target physical. This is an option. And then on lances, I would say you should stay the physical route. So the Hero Lance, Fencelar, the Well Lance, and then Javelin are your best bet. You can always run like Silver and Steel and swords or lances, but if you have access to these are just better. So they're just cheaper to upgrade. These two are like two of the best weapons in the entire game. They're basically overpowered. All right, now for engravings, I put them in the corner now. These are generally the best engravings for most units. This improves damage and reduces weight. It also improves hit and avoid. This just improves damage and accuracy and gives you some crit and some hit and avoid at no cost. Like, there's no weight increase. This reduces damage by 1, might by 1, but it gives you hit avoid plus 30, and it also reduces weight. So these are like some of the most highly contested engravings in the game. And then this leaf engraving is good on these for the most part. It could be used on this if you can get her fast enough, which isn't hard to do at 75% speed growth. Micaiah is usually just used for avoid tanking, but this is the better option because there's a difference of 10% avoid. This has 40 avoid, this is 30, but this does not improve hits, which generally Chloe doesn't need, but this also reduces damage by 2 and weight by 1. And then Celica just reduces weight and damage by 1, so this is for weight fixing. It also gives you basically 50 crit avoid, so you never will get crit for the rest of the game. But these are the top 3 for the build for sure. So for passives, for the top row, I would say if you're on Levin Sword, you want sword power. That's like the top priority. You should try to get sword power 1 to 3 as early as possible. If you get tier 3 and then tier 4 wells, which is pretty easy to achieve, especially if you use the free silver weapons the game hands you. If not, you might have to buy some weapons just to specifically get up enough cash to tier 4 well early. You can usually get sword power 2 pretty consistently. Now, lance power is for if you're running lances. She is viable on lances on this build, and it's a physical build, but it's not like Wyvern. Basically, Wyvern is better for lances if you want to go the physical route, but it still is good, and it still is like endgame viable with lance power 5. And then Canter is always good to have. Speed Plus, I would say, is better than Speed Taker in this case because she's so fast, she just needs a little bit of speed if you are barely missing doubling thresholds. So you can use either, though, and both are fine. For middle row, we have the avoid tanking and the tanking stuff. So this is, I would say, is better. So this is like top tier, this is like mid or like more utility. So if you want her to be an avoid tank of some kind, you could run Sword Agility. She's very fast and might not even need speed fixing, especially if you run her on a Speed Plus emblem ring, so you could get away with that. So if you want to run like plus 30 avoid or dual support or just straight up plus 30 avoid, you get plus 30 for either of these, but they're cheaper than this. Lance agility has the best availability out of these three because these two are tied to Marth. So you can get them to like 2 to 3, you know, rank 2 to 3, and then you lose Marth, and then by the end game you can finish off the ranks if you want, but you'll be missing it in the middle game. And this has good middle game availability, and as long as she's near A supports, she's very dodgy. Holdout's always good, but you know, if you want to just kill things, it's kind of like a wasted slot if you're not constantly getting killed by stuff. So, and then for the bottom row, just some utility. This is for the physical build. You could run this for healing, but that's weird. This is just like, you know, if maybe you're not doing the well, you just want another passive. This is some free healing, potentially. She's probably going to be out killing things, so it's debatable how good this is. And then this is just if you want her to help with more support, but I don't recommend these. These are just in here if you want to use them. All right, and then for emblems. All right, this is going to look crazy because there's a lot. So I would say Sigurd is probably the best because you get Canter for free. You get build +3 at rank 20, which is usually enough to reduce her Levin Sword. So Levin Sword is 11 weight. If you run Sigurd engraving or Lucina engraving, you reduce the weight by 1, so it puts it at 10 weight. She's like 6 to 7 build on Griffin, so you're looking at 3 to 4 points of speed depending on what her build is. And Sigurd pretty much reduces it to no speed decrease or 1 speed decrease, which is pretty good. So, and you can do his paralog early middle game. It's not hard, and easily get her to bond level 20. So this is probably one of the best things. You can do hit and run tactics for free. You can get Canter Plus for free. You can get the build reduction for free. He also improves defense, which doesn't really help her that much, but really she's going after the build increase and the Canter for free. And this allows you to 1 round consistently, and it's also not like a highly contested emblem. Now another option is Celica. Celica improves damage and also gives you Warp Ragnarok. And Celica is very, like, not in high demand. It's not like Celica's used in a lot of, like, high-tier builds or anything like that. So this is another lowly contested emblem ring that she can switch to if you want. Now, this will just boost her magical damage. I think it's, like, +5 or +6 on Celica at max rank. But Warp Ragnarok can be really useful. And, you know, it's just mobility and damage in this case. Byleth is good because it gives you speed and magic as well as the super dance, but you might want to use this on a utility unit. Depends on how you're playing the game, or you might want to use this on a Lear for super dancing and super instructing. But Byleth does give magic and speed, which benefits Levin Sword builds. Leaf would mostly just be used for the build. Leaf at bond level 10, I think, is like +4 build. So now your weapon weighs nothing. You get some extra health on Leaf. You get a little bit more survivability. The adaptability could mess with enemy phasing, but this is a player phase build, so that doesn't matter. So really you would just be using this for build fixing to remove the weight penalty of the Levin Sword completely, and also getting a little bit more durability so you can attack into weird things more. You can take more dangerous plays. You also could get Vantage. I think if you leave the bond at 4 though, you would be like +3 build, and you don't, like, I think you would always enemy phase at 2 range with Levin Sword, so that could be a thing as well. Marth would be good because you get free attacks. Marth, honestly, is just like pure damage. Now, you get strength and speed, so this could be better for the physical route, but getting speed plus extra attacks also benefits Levin Sword. You get extra hits at 50% damage from breaking and extra hits when engaged. So if you're engaged and something attacks you, you can enemy phase. When you're engaged and you attack something, you can, if you double it, or even if you just hit it once, you get an extra free 50% damage hit. So you just get extra attacks that just boost your damage and speed. So by the time you get this back, you'll be very fast. It'll boost your speed even more. So you'll continue doubling consistently. So this is a good late game emblem for you. The strength route, or just the Levin Sword route. Roy is pretty good for the strength route. You get +6 strength, which is a lot of damage. You get holdout, so that way if an archer hits you or you happen to die, it's a get out of jail free card. You also have access to the fire AoE attack as a flyer, which can be useful. So if you combine that with like Canter, you can like set a bunch of dudes on fire and then Canter away and stall, or do AoE attack. Now I believe you can do that with the Levin Sword. I could be wrong. I know you can override with Levin Sword, and that would be pretty good on Sigurd. But for Roy's attack, I'm pretty sure you could use the Levin Sword to AoE hit dudes for damage while setting them on fire. But mainly like the level up, you'd get like +1 to 2 speed, some magic. So you're just slightly better stats when engaged. You have more strength if you want to go the physical route. Alternatively, you could just use this for the durability. You get like health, you get, you know, holdouts, so you're just tankier. Because Griffin Knight versus Wyvern, Wyvern can tank way better in general. More things are physical, and some of the threats that are magical usually don't double, especially when you're this fast. You're not getting doubled by anything. Erica can be good for magic increase to some degree. She provides magic increase. Outside of that, you can flip modes for bravery. So you get the magic increase on Erica, and then if you flip to bravery, you also get +3 or +5 damage. Gentility flips, so you don't even have to be engaged. So you can just get bonus damage. So you could get like, I think, +8 damage. I think Erica is like +3 or +4 magic max. So it's either +8 or +9 damage when you max out her bond rank. So that could be pretty useful. And then finally we have Corrin, who boosts magic but also adds utility. So you could torrential to freeze dudes. You could just kill things. You could one round on Levin Sword when engaged, and then also AoE freeze dudes. So this gives you some utility, but this is probably better off on someone else. But these are like, I think these are like the best. And then these are like situationally good. But there's a lot of options for this build. And you can even just go no emblem ring if you want. You could just run like a bond ring with like speed +2 and magic plus. Or even just like magic +2 and speed plus, and you'll probably be able to double in one round pretty consistently. Arguably, this and her on Mage Knight are like her best builds on Levin Sword, because Levin Sword is so good. Even without sword power, it still usually one-rounds things, but with sword power, it one-rounds enemy mages for the most part. So if you have sword power 4 to 5, you're going to be one-rounding most things, pretty much everything in the game, as long as you're fast. That's it for this Chloe Griffin Knight build. Overall, it's easy to get into. It's very basic, like there's nothing crazy. Oh yeah, you also have staff use. I forgot to mention all this. Because you're Griffin Knight, so you can run like Mend or Treats. I would bring one of these with you, maybe an Obstruct, maybe a Physic. If your inventory is just Levin Sword, you can bring like Mend or Treats, Physic, Obstruct, and like Restore. And that's so nice to have. Having like a combat unit that can also heal, that can also obstruct, that can also restore, it's hugely useful. So let's toggle the Restore. It's in here. You can also bring like Rewarp if you want. That's like an option. Let's put it off to the side here. You bring Rewarp. Let's put it here. So these are like what you can run at C rank basically. You can also run Freeze. So you have some options that are nice. Freeze is kind of inconsistent, but I'd recommend running like 2 to 4 of these if your inventory is just this, because this is literally all you need. This is so good because it's like this plus this. Like it's like both of these things, but it targets res, which most enemies have low res. But yeah, it's probably one of the best builds in the game, and it has early availability, and this leverages her higher magic growth. Now, so Griffin Knight doesn't have the highest magic stat, but at 50% growth and her being on your team early, it will scale well, and with sword power, it's pretty stable. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe. Let me know if you feel like I missed anything on this build. I'm going to do, I think, one more Chloe build, and then I'm going to start doing other units. So, yeah, peace.